So welcome back, everyone. Nick Wagner Sr. Open to Helping event, the afternoon session. So I joked John and MS this morning. I had a 15-minute break built in so I could go scarf a sandwich, say hi to my wife and daughter who just got back from school, and then jump back on. So it's 12:30 Eastern time. So I know we have people literally from all over the world that have been on all morning, which has been fantastic. So we're back, and we have a bunch of great sessions lined up this afternoon. So we're going to start off with John and MS on the very, I think, important yet difficult for many people topic of networking. Right, so we're talking about networking, both of you. We're going to follow that up with Dr. Michelle Dropkin about staying positive during a job search, which is going to be great. I'm going to talk about my personal innovation plan that I share with individuals, and then we're going to wrap it up with an Ask Me Anything session with any of our presenters from today that can join for open Q&A with individuals, which will be great. So I just want to introduce the two of you before we jump into your content. I know you have some questions you're going to go over on the topic of networking, but I'd like to introduce both of you first. So first, I want to introduce MS. So MS, I love the nickname, right? So we're gonna go with it. The three of us all work at Cigna together, so I'll just throw that out there. But MS is right now you're filling in as an HR business partner, but you've had an extensive career in HR, both here in America and in India, where you're from. Passionate about helping people, and when I put this event out there, you asked to help, and I really appreciate that. And we signed you up for the topic of networking because I think you have some really unique experiences you've had with networking. And then we've got John Vasellina, who I also work with, who also has a very unique background in HR, working for a variety of companies, some in healthcare, some pharmaceutical, some more in the industrial space. And John is also an entrepreneur himself. He used to own his own co-working space, also loves to volunteer, does a lot of volunteering in his community. And I was just thrilled to have him also be a part of the session today. So I wanted to thank both of you for joining. And I will let the two of you, I know you're going to lead the discussion, the two of you, and then I'll probably just jump in here or there. But I just want to make sure we leave probably 10 or 15 minutes for questions, because we've had a lot of questions throughout the morning. I think it's been really valuable for people to ask questions. I will do the questions for you because I'll get them through the comments, and I'll ask you as we go towards the end. Does that sound good?
Sounds perfect.
All right, friends, take it away.
Okay, so John, do you want to start with the introduction? Although Nick did a great job with it, or I can start, and then we can kind of talk about the questions as well. So, just a little bit of introduction. Although Nick shared, I have experience both in India and America. So networking, the topic why I chose this topic was because how I actually use networking as a tool throughout different industries that I worked with, whether it was consulting, technology, and now healthcare, and also school. So I came here to the US to do my master's at Cornell, and how I leveraged that piece for networking, and how I included it in the corporate networking is what I wanted to share today for sure. Also, I used to be a sports person at some point in time, a national level India national level ping pong player. How actually that, which is not at all related to corporate, but I kind of used that network as well in terms of the transferable skills that we've talked about in some of the sessions in the morning. I would love to share that piece as well with the rest of the group. So with this, I'll hand over to John, and then we'll get into the session.
Sure. I don't know what else I would say. That Nick does me justice when he introduces me. I wish he could introduce me all the time. I'm happy to be here on this topic. I think of course, I think it's important, but I also think it's often misunderstood in terms of networking, and it gets taken down sometimes to these tactical levels, like handing out business cards, back in the day when we used to be in person, or how many LinkedIn contacts you have. And that, in my opinion, kind of misses the mark a little bit. I mean, those are some things you can do, but there's some core things in networking that I found to be really valuable, and I hope we get a chance to talk about them today. So thank you.
Perfect. And I think one of the best examples of networking is this opportunity today. So once again, I know Nick has heard this a number of times today. Thank you so much for organizing this. Thank you so much for hosting us, for giving us the opportunity to actually share our experience and benefit so many people who probably are either struggling alone and don't have the right platform or opportunity or a way to find the right people, this is a great platform for them to kind of connect with the right people. So thank you, Nick. Kudos to you for bringing us all together.
Happy to do it. I appreciate all of you volunteering. So thank you.
So the way we thought about this session was a lot of the sessions that we've had in the morning have been either presentations or discussions. So what we are going to do is I have actually gathered a few questions from some of my network that I thought would be helpful for this topic. So we'll start with those along with Nick kind of monitoring if there are any other questions. So I'll ask the question, John and I can both share, and then Nick is going to jump in with his experiences as well. While you all feel welcome to share your thoughts on it in the chat and also the questions if you have any. So with that, John, the first one that I have, given like Nick shared, given the vast experience that you have, how would you even start to define networking?
So for me, I really think about it by not using that term. I think about it as just connecting with people. And it kind of falls into two buckets, right? People I've connected with in the past and people I'd like to connect with in the future. And I choose the word connection because I think, we're human, and that's what we seek as humans is real connection. So I look at it as, I kind of define it as finding opportunities to connect with people and reconnect with those that you already know. And I take it a step further, and we'll often say finding opportunities to help the people you've already connected with, and help the people that you're going to meet in some small but meaningful way.
Yep. I think the only bit that I would add to that is I have found networking a little intimidating as a word, which some people find it because, oh my God, I have to prepare, I have to do this as a task. I would say find common grounds, something that we've kind of talked about in most of the sessions today. Find that common goal or common ground or common interest that you have with people and talk about it through your passion. So for example, Nick and I have this in common, that he likes to help people and I like to do it too. So I've reached out to him multiple times on this topic, and that's how you create that network. So it started with Nick, and look at us today. We have 10 people presenting, and I got to expand my network through that. So having a very specific idea of what you want to do with it helps start it. And then for me, generally, it is around, do I have anything in common that I want to reach out to this person for? And then from there, build on it. It can be various things. For example, for this topic, we're talking about open to work. That can be one thing. Then it can be, oh, I want to have this volunteer experience. Can I connect with John on this because he's done this similarly? Oh, I want to explore this area, which I have no idea about. Can I connect with this person on this? So having that clarity in terms of what can I connect with that person, and then find the right person for it, would be how I would say define networking. Nick, anything you want to add?
I think the most important thing with this topic is just to start, right? I think a lot of people they kind of get stuck, right? Because they want to do it like the right way, right? Or they don't know how to start, or they're afraid. What I've found in my career, and you both know, I'm like one of the most extroverted people you'll meet. I'll literally talk to a wall, right? If it talked back, yeah. But I think one of the most really important things is most people, if you ask someone like, "Hey, I'd like to connect with you and hear about your job or your career, or this presentation you gave, or name the topic," most people are going to say yes, right? I would say 9 out of 10 people would actually say yes to you. Or some people are going to say, I don't have time, or it's, there's another reason they can't. Sure. But most people would say yes. So I think just, you're not going to get a yes if you don't ask, right? And a lot of people are afraid to ask. So that would be my first thing, is just get started. I know that seems really basic, but just get started is, I think, my first piece of advice.
I think you're taking our other questions, Nick. No, I was kidding. Yeah, that is good advice. Mohammed or MS, may I ask you the second question? So, given how different this year has been so far, right, which might be an understatement, between full-time work from home, remote learning for people with children and coming home, how do you think networking has changed, with COVID-19 and the fallout from that? And this is a two-parter. What pieces do you expect to stay with us, and what pieces do you think will go back to quote unquote normal?
Quote unquote normal, whenever that happens, and whatever
that means now, right?
whatever that means now. So very personal here. For the first time in my entire career, this is the first time I'm actually working from home. So I've had my fair share of challenges with understanding how it is to work at home with no colleagues around to just walk and have that water cooler conversation, which used to help so much. So couple of things. I'm probably going to give it more from a generic perspective rather than COVID specific for people in terms of networking. One, Nick kind of just shared the point that I was about to say. Start. Just don't even think about it. Everybody loves to share or talk about their journey. And there is, as Nick mentioned, the address that you started with, Nick, in the morning at the beginning of the sessions today, we all have something to learn from each other's story. So just ask, just talk and say, I am in this situation, or I just want to talk. You have 15 minutes. The second thing I really liked in one of the sessions that somebody mentioned was vulnerability. Now, like, how do you want to portray it? How to what level do you want to take it? Depends on how comfortable you are with it. But I would say be genuine and be vulnerable in your conversations. Share honestly. I am in this position and I want to talk about this particularly with you. Do you have time? Now, I understand, given we have conflicting priorities, which we always do, this time is more challenging with both mental capacity for people, the saturation of mental capacity, and physical capacity, considering we have the chores that we have to do throughout the day as well. Be mindful of it when you're asking or requesting. It's okay for people to say no to you the first time. Ask them if this is a good time to reach out. Ask them if it is okay to reach out again whenever they have capacity. And be more, I think people are burning out faster than how they were last year. So understand that even if you're in a situation where you're probably open to work and the other person is saying they're open to helping, but they might have conflicting priorities. So be more mindful of that bit and just ask them, can you please recommend, either you can help me or can you recommend somebody else who can help me? Can you connect me with somebody else who will be in a position to help me with this? I really want to learn a particular topic, or I want to look at a particular job, or any topic that you're looking for in terms of networking. The third is commit to it. I think one of the sessions mentioned do your homework when you're connecting with somebody. So since we have, during COVID, we have less mind space, I think, in terms of dedicating it to certain activities. Make sure that you're utilizing that time very effectively. You have exactly what you wanted to talk about. It looks like an extra effort, I know, like Nick said in the beginning, can be a little scary to start with, but just having clarity on what do you want to get out of those 30 minutes that you're connecting with that person. 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Trust me, 15 minutes can be enough sometimes to talk to somebody and give you enough ideas to get you started on something. So it's just about having done your homework, knowing what you want to do with those 15 minutes and conveying that to that person, either beforehand, so that the person is prepared, or during that conversation, just depends. So with this, I think from whether it's COVID or work at home, I would say these things. When it comes back to normal, I think the water cooler conversations would probably happen. The walk and talk, like Erin mentioned in one of the sessions, you would end up meeting on coffee. It'll be much more casual. I know people get a little concerned on webcam. It's a little different. It's not that easy to have a conversation on the chat like this as compared to what I would have had if I just walked in to the office and had a conversation with John. So getting used to these things takes a little bit of time, but at the same time, it's not going to be the same always. Remembering that this will go back to normal, where we will end up connecting with people in person. And if not, I truly call myself a global citizen, having moved within India to multiple places and having moved here. I believe this is the way to go. I believe this is a way to connect. If you want to have a global network, you have to get very used to this, considering the way Nick has connected the network today, how many people have logged on from different parts of the world. This is one of the best ways to connect. And also that exposes you to a lot of learnings from different parts that you probably wouldn't be exposed to. So getting comfortable, I think a couple of things. Flexible was one thing that was mentioned in one of the sessions in the morning. Being flexible with what the environment has to throw at you, and then adapting to it and using it to your advantage. Very long-winded answer, but I think
Good answer.
that's what I would have to say.
That was a really great answer. If I were to add anything, I think with these changes, like all things, the environment changes, it sort of changes the game, but the fundamentals also stay the same. I found people are more open to networking right now because there is this, like, people are feeling isolated with work at home. There's a lot of uncertainty in the atmosphere. And, the thing about a network is it's better to have it before you really need it. Building the network when you need it is really hard work. Having the network and then being able to use it is a much better predicament. But I'm seeing a lot of openness from people to connect. Seeing a lot of tact from people who are in need. Finding ways to not say, "Hey, do you have a job for me?" or whatever, but they're really being actually very tactful with, like, "Yeah, I did lose my job. I am unemployed, and I'm doing my best to network. If you think of a place where I could add value, please think of me." And so I'm seeing a lot of that, and I'm seeing people connecting and networking over new things. So with kids in school, or with the remote learning and kids out of school from home, I'm seeing parents connect differently. Non-parents doing things for their colleagues that have parents or even strangers. And so I think it's provided some opportunities for deeper connection and deeper networking. And I think with all of this, it's softened our hearts, and whereas maybe it would have been difficult to even think about just saying hi to a stranger or and introducing yourself or whatever, because it would have felt kind of like a weird networking kind of thing. I'm seeing people become incredibly generous to strangers, and that's forming some deep connections. And I think that's been brought about with COVID. It was there before, but it's been enhanced and accentuated. And I really hope that piece of it stays with us once we kind of normalize after all of this, because I think that part of networking and that level of networking is some of the best of what humanity has to offer.
Hey, John, I want to reiterate something you just said, because I think it's probably going to be the most important things that you highlight in this. And I know we have a lot.
Well, I don't know. It's early, Nick. It's early.
We have a lot of people on here that are currently open to work, and we have some people on here that have jobs, but they're looking for tips on to find their next job, right? Your network is the most important way for you to get your next job. And I always tell people that you don't start building a network the day you need a job. You start building a network years before you need a job. And you just said that, John, but I wanted to reiterate that.
Ideally.
That for those of you that have jobs today and you haven't done a good job networking, use today, December 4th, is the day you're launching the expansion of your network, right? And for those of you that are looking for work and that are open to work, use today as like that point, like use this event, right? I'm giving everyone's LinkedIn profiles out for all the guest speakers today. Start networking, right? Because that is how you're going to find your next role. And I cannot stress that enough. I know it can be intimidating, but just you got to start, right? Because it's so critical. So I just wanted to highlight that, John, because I can't stress that point enough.
And to your point, I mean, when you think about applicant tracking systems and recruiters, there's more available talent than there are jobs right now. So that means as you submit things online, as we talked about in other sessions, there's a lot online, and having a person who can just say, hey, could you take a look at this resume, could make all the difference. That is how I've gotten almost every job that I've had. It was a person who I knew and said, well, here's the resume. Maybe if you can get the hiring manager to look at it. And certainly there's been other times where I looked at the resume and said, he's still not, thanks, but no thanks. But they eventually panned out. It was not going through the applicant tracking system online.
I can't emphasize enough, John, you summarized it so beautifully. One, in terms of what we are seeing, the change, not the change, but I think the increased acceptance from people and increased need for helping and actually trying to support the folks around. And as Nick mentioned, you don't start the day you're looking for a job. I have, and there's probably the difference that I've faced actually. Since I've been in the US, I've had the network part of it play a very strong role as compared to when I was back in India. It was a different way. Network played a role. It was more of a supportive role that it played. We had the different platforms that really helped. But what I have actually noticed throughout these years is you don't sometimes even realize you're creating your network, or you don't even realize that that person is your network till you actually reach out and have that conversation. I have had some very amazing developmental conversations with people who are probably not part of my professional network, just because they've worked with me, or just because, like Nick said, I asked them for feedback, or I asked them, oh, this is something that you do. How do you do it? For example, I am very happy that I connected with Nick, and I reached out, and I just reached out to Nick because I like what he does, and he has all the skill set to do that. I probably don't, but what I wanted to learn from him was, how does he do it? So it's just about, you probably don't even know somebody is your network till the time you reach out, and that's how you just create it. The way Nick has now helped us with all these 10 presenters who are here, and 200 plus or however many people who are connecting today. How many of you knew yesterday that we all would be a network tomorrow? So it's just about identifying people and reaching out and connecting, and then later you might realize this person is a network. The second thing, what I have realized over the years and has been really, really helpful, is connecting regularly with people and
Yes.
maintaining that connect. I've had mentors from my first organization till now, which is 12 years, 13 years into it. And I've changed companies, I've changed locations, etc. Just maintaining that contact, it takes a lot of effort, but at the same time, you would not even realize how helpful it is in terms of your development. Reason being, they've seen you grow from what you started and where you are now, and how that will help in terms of them connecting you with the right people at times.
Right. I think you hit on, you were going to say something, then I interrupted because you took a breath. I do that sometimes. I do that in person, let alone over the web. It's gotten a lot worse over the web. You hit a nail on the head. You have to keep your network up. It's kind of like a tree, right? So I say the network is, your network is all the people you know, and the quality of that is the more things that you get to know about them and they get to know about you. So but with that, probably the network you have is probably more useful in many cases, especially if you're job hunting, than the network that's somewhere out there, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why in my opinion, it's important to keep those relationships up, and I don't want to say stay relevant because that sounds too tactical, but become top of mind. Do nice things for people. I send out a ton of Christmas cards. I write them with sincerity. I really do. It's not a tactical exercise. But it's a way to keep up. It's a way to, oh wow, they can say how big my kids are now, and I can remember something about them. You keep that stuff relevant because that strength of your current network, it's all we have is each other.
I think being genuine with your connections is also very important. You might have 5,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I'm not saying connect with all 5,000, identify your people that you think would help you in a certain way. Like I said, have those connections where you connect with them on a personal level in terms of whether it's your goal that you, or a common area that you're connected on, and with them be invested throughout. I have had an amazing relationship with pretty much every mentor that I had from my organization, and how they have helped me to be the person that I am today is just amazing. And like John, you mentioned, have that genuine connection. You have to build it, that you really mean it. You're not just sharing it, oh, because I have to be relevant, oh, because someday I might need you for the job. But yes, I do appreciate you for XYZ things. I like this because you and I have worked on this. How do I further my interest in this area? Or I am at a point where I don't know what to do. Is there something that you can guide me on, that you've done, where I can work on some of the areas that you've worked on? You've seen some of my areas of improvement. How can I work on those? So, and sometimes I've noticed the personal touch, like John mentioned, has really helped me. I have seen them grow. They've seen me grow, moving from a student to having a family, and those personal aspects, I believe, is very, very important. And the second thing I think, which I have noticed and has benefited me personally, I've never really kept my network just focused on the companies that I worked with. I've actually kept it outside, whether it's a volunteering activity. You just talk and you end up knowing somebody who's done something that's very interesting. Might not be exactly the work that you do in your professional setup, but you're interested in it. And that then helps you connect with certain people that you would never connect with, and end up with a job opportunity. I've seen that happen with me. The sports network that I have, the game that I used to play, or the sport that I used to play, how that helped me in shaping me as the individual that I am today. And that how that network then helped me build those skills that I could transfer to my professional network. So be
Right.
on the lookout. You probably don't even know that you're already doing it. So there's nothing to be scared of. You're probably already doing it, like walking up in a coffee shop and talking to somebody. You're doing it. You didn't even realize you're actually networking right there and then. So I think that's one of the things. With this, I think one thing, anything from both of you actually, anything that you would suggest that we should focus on for networking particularly.
For focus, right?
Such a good
Nick,
time for that
which
question.
child is that?
The one who came back from school.
That was my little one. I knew
All
she'd
right.
make an appearance at some point.
Awesome.
I have and after I do have a
Now go.
question. I do have a question from one of our guests. One of our.
Let's take a
Can you
question, I
comment
think.
on?
Yeah.
Can you comment on random expansion of network versus relevant expansion, and how, and like what are some of the actual, like, maybe like strategies to actually do that relevant expansion?
I mean, I have some interesting examples. I have some great stories, actually, of randomness, because that seems to be my life.
You want to start there?
I'll start random.
Yeah.
The woman who watches our children, our nanny, wants to go back to school, and she had debt left over from, she got divorced. There's debt left over, and I talking to her one day. She said, "I'd like to go back," and I said, "Well, why don't you?" And it turned out that she said, "I can't afford it." And as employers, we started a modest tuition reimbursement fund, the best that we could budget for, right, to get her started. And she said, "But I'm not going to work for you forever. Your kids are growing." She started a GoFundMe page to ask for help, which she said was really tough for her. I gave her a lot of credit. I said, "Well, let me send it to my network," and she's like, "Absolutely." There were people that gave her hundreds of dollars that were random connections that I met. A woman I met on an airplane 8 years ago that we stayed friends on Facebook, gave her like $150. A woman that I worked with briefly at a company, we spoke maybe 4 times, gave her $100.
Wow.
Right. So you get into these networks and not only did they give some money, they said, the gal who works for us, she did overcome some serious adversity that was relatable for these people. But they even said, like, if she needs any other help, she needs help figuring out how to consolidate that debt, or how to make it as a single mom and how to navigate this stuff. Like, I'm here for her. So we get into these random situations where you have, networks of networks, and you just never know how they're going to play out. And that was a really heartwarming recent example. I've got others, but you just never know. And so my wife's like, do you have to talk to everybody on the airplane? We travel it. Like, no, I don't have to talk to everybody, but
you never know.
But you never know. You never know who the next special people. Human beings are remarkable. You don't know what remarkableness is sitting next to you, or that you're going to hold the door for. So that's my random story.
That's a good random one.
And it's only a couple weeks old. So,
MS, you have any on the relevant expansion?
Yep.
Oh,
luckily, I do have a recent relevant story, which was amazing. So I am connected. I attended one of these seminars for a platform where they were talking about a topic where, so generally the way we have this, right? You go live, you have a chat box going on, and people start connecting or networking. I was talking about the work that we had done with the platform and how we had used their information and how we did it with Cigna, and then how I had done it with previous organizations. One woman reached out to me immediately and she said, I'm very interested in what you were saying. Can we connect? And 10 minutes later, I found out she was part of the same school, Cornell, a different batch altogether. But within 15 minutes, we found out that there were, I think, 10 or 15 people that we knew in common. And that's just how, and I've never, ever, I don't know how it never popped on my network before, but within 15 minutes, we had 15 people that we knew in common. We had a school in common, and we had a common interest, which was the topic that we were listening to. I don't know if it becomes a combination of random and relevant, but it was very interesting to talk about it because they were, as an organization, thinking of implementing something that we have already done at Cigna. So she wanted to talk about it, and how that conversation then led for me to understand, to share my experience on how we've done it. Also, learn from her on how they are planning to do something which is relevant for us. And suddenly there were about 15 or 16 people connected because of one conversation and participating in something that I was listening to. So for example, the chat that we are seeing today, right? I see a lot of people talking to each other as well. Use that as an opportunity. Literally, what I've realized in the last couple of months is there are hidden opportunities for things. Just be on the lookout. For me, that platform was a hidden opportunity. I just shared my point of view. Somebody really liked it, picked on it, and then, oh, I want to connect. I want to talk more. That was the common interest that we both found. And then we created a relevant topic on that, relevant network on that topic. So very recent, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So those are both great examples, and I have like 4 more questions. So I'm gonna, John, if that's okay, I want to go to the next question.
Quick plug here. One last thing.
Go for it.
So if you are one of those people that's really struggling working from home, and then now you're unemployed and being at home, one of the best sources of intentional networking that I found, the 2 places were volunteering, right? Mm-hmm. Because we've talked about that earlier in the day, and you might meet. My wife got her job from volunteer experience. I got one of my jobs by meeting the right people from a volunteer experience. And the other is co-working. So a lot of co-working spaces are still open. They're taking a lot of precautions during COVID-19. And when I ran the co-working space, I would let people who were unemployed work there and not have to pay, if we had an open desk. And in many cases, somebody in the co-working community helped connect to them and get a job. So those are 2 places for intentional, non-random networking. All right, I'm done.
I love that. No, those are great. Thank you. So MS, I think this one's really relevant for you. Networking, the question is about networking in a particular country versus networking internationally. So maybe you can just share some of your real life experiences of what it was like for you networking in India versus networking in the US, and now how you network cross country.
Great question, literally. And I have thought about this so many times. Networking in India was interesting. One, because it was more company specific. I had my mentors and my connections very company specific, and I'll be honest, I was less open to just sending a message on LinkedIn and say, oh, I would love to connect. I have been more open about it in the last few years. So for India, I would say it was more specific to the industry, to the work that you were doing. And that was probably me. I don't want to categorize it or generalize it for other people, but that was me. I wanted to talk about, oh, I am in talent management right now. I would go to a certain event, talk to a certain set of people who are doing the same work. What I was not realizing was that I was restricting my horizon in terms of learning just what I knew. I wasn't learning more. That realization happened when I moved here and moved to back to school, Cornell, and how I could learn from just the the batch that we had, and that forced networking that we were made to do at Cornell in the very beginning, where I was like, I'm here to learn and I'm not here to network. I've done this for the last 10 years. I want to learn. So can we just get to the classes? And that's when I realized that most of the learning that I did at Cornell actually happened outside. It happened through those connections, through those people who were visiting, Hansford being one of them. My God, I can't thank him enough. John Moravito being one of them. I mean, there were CHROs and other people who were visiting us. Their real life learnings that they shared were way more helpful in building the network and learning experiences than the classes that I was looking for. So how it was different was a lot of countries have very specific ways of hiring. India had platforms to hire that they used for hiring, whether it was job applications through a certain portal or something. They use that more as compared to the network, and there are some cultural nuances to that as well. Whereas for US, what I noticed, it does give you an advantage if you know somebody, if somebody is actually referring you. Not that it doesn't in India, but it is easier to find it through somebody rather than going on the job portal and doing it. So I have become much more deliberate in my need to do that in the US. How I have connected the two is, like I said before, I have been very deliberate in terms of keeping up with my connections in India. The mentors that I had, whether I'm not able to maintain it with all of them, but I have my set of 5-7 people that I know who have seen me grow throughout. Connect with them and keep them posted on whatever is happening with you, professionally, personally, whatever your relationship with them is, so that they don't feel that you're reaching out to them only when you need or only when they need. So it's a mutual, genuine connection that you've established, and it does come across. I've had people from my first organization, I've had it from my last organization, I've had it without organizations. The flights, I'm so scared of flying that I talk to the next person sitting. I make sure that I talk to the person who's sitting, and I've made some amazing connections. I remember one person was from Accenture, one was from Workday, which I ended up working with in the US 4 or 5 years later. So please have those airport conversations. Please have the coffee conversations, flight conversations. But that's all I would share, at least in terms of networking in different countries and connecting it back.
No, that was great. Thank you. We have 2 more questions and we'll wrap up because we're almost at time. So the next question, this is a common one that I've gotten asked. What about requests that come from people you have never met or crossed paths with on LinkedIn? What do you do? Do you accept it or not?
It depends for me, right? I mostly accept them. It just depends on what the ask is. So I'm pretty flooded with asks from sales people. I respect selling is a really hard job. I can't keep up with them to even politely say, it's not really but if somebody asks me just for time or to connect, we've got some shared connections, I have said yes. I believe 100% of the time. If I ignored it, it was by accident. And one person I actually ended up asking me to be their mentor for 6 months in learning and development. And she worked at Land's End. We literally just met over LinkedIn. She said, you have a background, you've done some things I think I want to do. We chatted. I got a suite polo or fleece out of the whole thing. I wish you worked at Land's End to send it to me. I always say yes to people that need help and want genuine connection, even if I don't know them.
Yeah, I think
we don't meet in person though. Like we meet like over the phone.
One thing for sure, whenever you're requesting somebody for a LinkedIn request, if you don't know the person, make sure that you share the reason of why you're connecting. Otherwise, again, like everybody shared, it just feels like, oh, you're just trying to get the numbers. That's not a good way to use somebody as a network. Try and find that connection of why do I want to talk to this person? Why am I adding? And that I am 100% sure, like we talked about, that would interest the person in terms of why I want to connect with this person as well. There has to be a reason for you to talk to that person and share that upfront. I am positive about it if you've shared it. And I think one of the sessions said, don't start with, I'm looking for a job.
Correct.
Find something that you want to talk about, and then how do you reach that point? Because as soon as you start with, I'm looking for a job, it just turns the whole conversation into a different topic altogether. So start with something common and then build on it and ask them that, can you, do you have anything that you can help me with? So that's just one piece of advice, at least on that topic. But I think I have accepted, at least where I've seen a genuine reason. I do not accept it I'm honest about it. I do not accept it for sales where they are just looking at, I'm at 4,999 and I want to be 5,000 for my network. I was like, okay, find somebody else for the tick.
Yeah.
I am not going to be that one for you.
The second question was in the same topic. Do you believe in the elevator pitch technique? And I think you just said it, MS. You don't necessarily need an elevator pitch when you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, but you do have to explain to them why you want to connect and the rationale behind it. Because the second part of the question is, like how do you make that good first impression when you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn?
Right. I'm not a big fan of the elevator pitch. I think it's a little bit antiquated, but I'm a big fan of being able to do it if it was the right situation. You got to adjust to the situation. I tend to take it in chunks. Hi, I'm John. I'm MS. What do you do? Oh, you do this. Wow, we do the same thing, and what like that more natural to me. But the the process of creating an elevator pitch is incredibly valuable because it helps you it helps you know you and be able to articulate you,
right?
Even if you don't actually have to give them the rote elevator pitch.
I think sometimes, again, it depends. It's helpful to have that ready, but it's not necessary to use it every time. If you're just talking to somebody for the first time, you may not need the elevator pitch. You might need to build that connection first of why do you even want to talk? Why should you invest that time with me, 15 minutes, 30 minutes? Why am I of interest to you? So have that conversation first, then use it. And that might actually not even require you to have that elevator pitch. But having it ready is very helpful. Like I think Jamie mentioned in the first session, it's very important for you to sell yourself. And that is where your elevator pitch would help if you're looking for a job or looking for an opportunity. That elevator pitch is generally very helpful.
Agreed. Well, hey, thank you to both of you. We're at time.
Thank you.
1:15. I'm going to introduce Dr. Dropkin in 1 second, but some great topics. I love the natural conversation. And I shared both of your LinkedIn profiles with everyone. So if people want to connect with John or MS, you're more than happy to do that. I would actually recommend it because it's a great way to network. So again, if you're open to work today, you want to start networking more as of today. If you are currently employed, there's no better time than now to start building your network, right? So please get going. John, MS, thank you so much. Hopefully we can see one or both of you at the Ask Me Anything session at 2:30 Eastern time, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.